1:30, so we will go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Carly Endres. I am the Outreach Coordinator for the North Dakota Brain Injury Network. I have been with NDBIN since February of last year, so a little over a year. Prior to that, I taught special education in the Grand Forks Public Schools, so I have some background in education as well, but I'm learning a ton with NDBIN. We do these webinars every other Wednesday, as long as we have a speaker and a topic. So if you know of any topics or speakers, please feel free to reach out to me. I can give you all my contact information at the end because there's a couple things that I'll mention that I can send out to you if you'd like. So, but now I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll get started talking about some concussion tools. All right, so the most common ways to sustain a concussion are falls. And in North Dakota, we typically see slipping and falling on the ice is the main issue we see with people in the winter time. So be careful, use your salt, walk like a penguin. I always tell the little kids we see. And then motor vehicle related injuries, being struck by or against an obstacle, assaults, and playing sports. I think most of us assume they're all sports related, but there are a variety of other reasons. And they're a lot easier to sustain than you would think. We have Christabel Braden that spoke at our conference last year, and she sustained her mild traumatic brain injury just playing the game Red Rover, which is, the kids hold hands and they say, Red Rover, so I'm Christabel Red Rover, and she went over and got bumped and has had results from that ever since that happened. So just some stats to give you. These are from brainline.org, which is a great website. But 13.8 million concussions occur every year in the US during competitive sports and recreational activities. However, as many as 50% of the concussions may go unreported. They do occur in all sports. The highest incidence is football, followed by hockey, rugby, soccer, and basketball. The largest number of sports and recreation-related traumatic brain injuries among males occurred during bicycling, football, and basketball. And then with females, they occurred during bicycling, playground activities, and horseback riding. And then another kind of obvious stat that they give is that, when you play more sports, you increase your, and especially when it's a group sport, when there's a large number of teams, then you're more likely to sustain a concussion as well. So we're going to jump right in and start talking about some of the red flag warnings these would warrant a need for emergent medical services or neuroimaging. So prolonged LOC stands for loss of consciousness, so 30 or more seconds. A GCS score of less than 15. GCS stands for Glasgow Coma scale, and we're going to dive more into Glasgow Coma scale here too in the next few slides and kind of explain what that scale is and how they use it. Any kind of seizures are definitely a red flag. Focal neurological deficits, if you suspect a skull fracture, there are severe headaches, slurred speech, significant drowsiness, active vomiting. And then if there is an increase, especially in headache pain, and if sudden vomiting seems to relieve headache pain, that's not necessarily a good sign. They want you to go in right away if you notice that. For any of these above noted, would be the same for young children, but oftentimes it can be more hard to tell with young children. So unconsolable crying, and then if they're not really hungry, don't have a good appetite, that would be another reason to warrant going in to the doctor.
Carly?
Yes.
Could you explain to me that up there any focal neurological deficits? What do you mean by that?
I take that as like a droop, like if your mouth is drooping, right, Rebecca? Does Rebecca want to comment on that at all? I take that as just any kind of facial.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
What was that again?
So like facial drooping at all, like sometimes if you try to smile, maybe one side isn't gonna go up like it normally would.
Oh,
Does
okay,
that make
okay.
sense?
Okay, yep, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And I should have said before, feel free to ask questions as we go here, or whatever works for you. Very informal. So here it gets into the Glasgow Coma scale more specifically. I just wanted you to kind of know what they're looking for. This is very, very medical, but basically you want points on the Glasgow Coma scale. It's not golf, so you want points. Spontaneous blinking gives you 4 points, but then no response would be at 1 point. So they look at eye opening first, or that's kind of the first thing they look at. And then they go into verbal responses. So oriented verbal responses would be 5 points, and then it ranges all the way down to no response would be 1 point. And you can kind of see on the screen there how they determine the points for verbal responses. And then motor response, are you able to follow commands for movement? That would be what they really want to see, so that would be 6 points. And then goes all the way down to 1 point for no response. And they're really looking for kind of how you respond to pain too is important with the Glasgow Coma scale. So those are the 3 areas that they're basically looking at with the Glasgow, with the GCS. So then whatever score the individual received, they would fall into a different category of a head injury. So severes would be a score of 8 or less, moderates 9 to 12, and then mild would be 13 to 15. And now here is our REAP page. So the REAP stands for remove or reduce, educate, accommodate and adjust, and pace. And we did format one to North Dakota, so that can be viewed online. We do have some hard copies, but in true nonprofit fashion, we didn't print bazillions of them, so we would ask that you go on to the PDF online, and I'm going to go into that later and show you guys how you access that from our website. But I do have business cards with this information as well, so say you're going into a school setting or something and you don't have enough hard copies, if you want to just give teachers the business card too to find our ReManual, they can do that as well. So then the REAP is really nice. We chose to format it to North Dakota because it's just really user friendly and it's short and but it's color coded. So when you're looking at the REAP, anything in orange is kind of referring to family. Light blue is the school team, but the physical team, so coaches, PE teachers, anything related to physical activity at school. The darker blue is going to be the academic team, math teachers and science teachers, those people. Green is going to be medical. And it's just really important to make sure you're taking information from all of these different disciplines and combining them so that you're not missing anything, because what the PE teacher sees might not be what the math teacher sees, and you might see something totally different at home. So it's important to check in as a team and make sure everyone's on the same page. And medical team might seem kind of silly, like, oh, doctors know all about concussions, but they may not. And especially in rural areas, maybe their information's a little bit outdated. So we just want to make sure everybody is following the most recent protocols for concussion. The biggest area of concern with concussion is that we not get another one right away. So we want to make sure that that individual, either that athlete, student, that adult, even if they slipped and fell on ice, doesn't do any physical activity until they're medically cleared. We need to reduce the demands at school and socially, which is very hard for those teenagers, but it needs to be done. Your brain just really, truly needs to rest. So after multiple concussions, there's a risk of developing chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, and other neurodegenerative disorders. Excuse me. So you can kind of think of when we have one injury, our risk of getting another injury is 3 times greater after that first one. And then for a third one, your risk improves even greater, 8 times more likely to sustain a concussion or a brain injury. You can kind of think of that like water, like foundation, or the foundation of your house, water finding its way into your house. A lot of us that live in North Dakota experience water in the fall and spring. And yeah, once your foundation, once it's found its way in, it's cracked that foundation, it's a lot easier to happen again. So I just want to make sure that rest is really done after an initial injury. And again, we can't stress enough to make sure all teams are aware of symptoms and ways to help with rest and accommodations. So some things at home: total bed rest for the first 2 days. No phones, no TVs, no books, nothing that's really using your eyes. Just a really good time to catch up on some sleep. If after those 2 days you're feeling better, and the individuals can slowly work up to things like their phone and TV, but if the symptoms occur, immediately go back to total bed rest after that. And then they really shouldn't return to school or even work if you're an adult until about 30 to 45 minutes of mental activity can be tolerated. So we have these slides, these common academic accommodations, as one infographic as well on our website, and I will show you where you can find that, and I can send you that if you'd like. But really we're looking at pacing, and that's kind of the main message behind the ReManual, is to really pace work. So the first week you need a lot of breaks, 20 to 30 minutes of work, 5 to 10 minute breaks. Water helps a lot. Keeping hydrated is really important for brain injuries. And then just keep the focus on them being in class. I wouldn't worry so much about work getting done. The second week is when you can kind of slowly start introducing more work. You want to prioritize the current work over the makeup work. So, and then also reduce overall amounts of required classroom assignments, and then shorten those assignments as well, and tests and projects and things. Weeks 3 and 4, you can kind of slowly add in more work, but still don't have them do a double assignment, double the work. And then limit homework to no more than 1 hour per day outside of school. That's important as well. Their brain is working really hard already when they're in school to stay in school and process everything that goes on in school, the lights, the sounds, the reading that goes along with school. So go easy on them in the beginning there. Some specific areas, some ideas of ways you can help a student with note taking. If you can give them the notes ahead of time or an outline, that would be great. And if you can enlarge the font. Sometimes it's helpful to assign a buddy to help the student take notes. If you allow a student to record classroom discussions or lectures, that also is very helpful, because then they can listen to that again later. Testing, definitely want to allow extra time. If it's a long test, if you could split it into short sections, remember that 20 to 30 minutes, I would stay with 20, and in a quiet environment. Free response is a little more difficult in this stage, so you want to allow multiple choice questions rather than those longer questions. And really, there shouldn't be anything going on in the computer until the individual has been cleared to do computer work. Things like band and music and assemblies, you kind of want to see what the student can tolerate and what they can, just what they can tolerate. And so I would recommend for school assemblies, sit by the door or sit even out in the hallway. Usually you can still hear, they're usually still pretty rowdy. So, and then just kind of, inch slowly closer into the actual assembly. The cafeteria too is going to be a hard place for a while, allowing hats and sunglasses, earplugs, things like that can really help with those sensitivities. If there's some visual impairments going on and they seem sensitive to vision related issues, audiobooks, a lot of textbooks you can find auditory versions of. They should really not be reading while they're symptomatic. So listening as much as possible. And then once they do seem ready to read, they still need to take quite frequent breaks. Again, that 20-minute is a good mark. So then pace comes into play, and that's really where students are allowed to kind of return to play and return to even gym class. I won't return to gym class until they are ready. I'm going to go in now and show you these pages in our ReManual and show you how to get to it from ndbin.org. Let's see here, I just gotta log out here. So we're going to look at pages 12, and then we're going to look at pages 15 and 16. On my screen here. All right, so this is our home screen of NDBIN. Hopefully you've all been there before. So if you go into brain injury information and then concussions, and right here is where the ReManual is. And here is where the flyer is that I was basically telling you about all the academic accommodations. All of those things are written out right on here. We've had parents bring this into class, into school, and show teachers, and you're welcome to do that and use that, print that out if needed. But then the actual REAP is right here. And so this is a PDF of the ReManual. And so, like I said, it's short and it's very user-friendly. Here's where you see that color coding I talked about. And this kind of explains some use of the manual, which I'm basically explaining to you right now. Goes into some myths, some facts, talking about all the team members.
Valid password. Try.
And then if we go down to page 12, I'm sorry, the page numbers are kind of hard to see. They're yellow. But this is page 12 here. This chart, this graph here, really talks about if you guys are, everybody make sure they're muted. Someone on their phone. I'm going to try to go in and mute everybody here real quick. Sorry, guys. I think I got everybody covered there. Okay, so page 12 talks about some good things to think about before you're going back to physical activity. So it kind of gives you your stages and how much return to sport before returning to actual sport. And then I also mentioned pages 15 and 16. I really like those because this one is a nice symptom checklist that you can give the individual that is experiencing the concussion to kind of see how their symptoms are and if they're getting better or not. You could give this assessment, you know, every couple of days. You could do it every day, really, if you wanted to, for a while, and just make sure things are getting better. And this teacher feedback form I like too, having been a teacher. I think this would be a nice guide. So the students, this is also a great time to teach some good self-advocacy skills if they are a student and still in the classroom. This would be something that they would give their teacher, and their teacher can sometimes, their teacher can make some notes for them. And then you can have some good data to show too that the student is getting better and is able to return to more rigorous parts of their day. So yeah, and then this just gets into the century code information and just some thank yous to who helped us with the manual. So there it is for you. So feel free to go on and, like I said, print pages or just save this to your desktop and you can reference it when needed. All right, so we'll get back into it's gonna start me over here again, I think. Slide through here. All right, so typically after following a concussion, it should take about 6 weeks maximum, I'd say, to recover from a concussion. But following one, we do see as many as about 15% still report problems after our concussion, after that 6-week mark. And so if that continues to happen, and here I'm going to tell you some of the things that people are talk about with symptoms, and then maybe some ways to help those that are still symptomatic after that 6-week mark. So usually it's kind of a vertical headache complaint, about 40%, and it's a lot of times it's a post-injury balance disruption. And vertigo and headache are kind of the main reason why a lot of people report difficulty with returning to work. These are kind of some of the most common changes after a mild traumatic brain injury. I did kind of steal this slide. I got to give her a plug because she did a great job. Amy Zielinski, she's a PT with ReMed, which is a brain injury rehab center on the East Coast. And she did a really nice presentation on vestibular issues following a mild traumatic brain injury. So a lot of this information I got from her. But vestibular, when we talk about, we use the word vestibular, we're kind of referring to your inner ear, but that really affects your balance and your vision. So that's where we see a lot of problems. Ocular motor refers to your eyes tracking things. And that's why schoolwork and reading are important to hold off on. Because you have really a lot of usually issues tracking, following. Your eyes struggle with jumping from one target to the next. Cognitive refers to processing speed, your concentration, attention. So basically it's those frontal lobe, those executive functioning skills can really be affected by a mild traumatic brain injury. Migraines basically speak for themselves, bad headaches that are occurring frequently. Cervical pain I found interesting. So she talked a lot about, you know, when we have a brain injury, there's a disruption to the body and to your bone structure, your muscles, your nerve roots, and all those things are disrupted. And so that pain is going to radiate right to your brain. So a lot of people might complain about that. And then anxiety and just kind of mood in general. We see a lot with mild traumatic brain injuries, kind of feeling more overwhelmed, short-tempered, maybe even depression. So if you're noticing those, it's time to get help. Vestibular symptoms can often look like this. And if you could imagine feeling like this while you're trying to grocery shop, how that would be so difficult. You know, when you think of this is just a visual, to think, you know, and then in the store you have the lights, you have the music, you have to wait in a really long line, you have 500 kinds of pasta to pick from. So these symptoms can really impact your day. As far as family might notice reading issues. You might notice some problems using stairs, escalators, curbs, any kind of change in your physical layout can be difficult. Scanning while walking or driving can be hard. ADL issues. ADL refers to activities of daily living. So getting dressed, buttoning your shirt, taking a shower, following any of those kinds of steps. They might be less interested in family events, they might miss work, and then it could go as far as not getting out of bed. So if you do have a family member that's having those problems, or yourself, these would be some of the recommendations that we would make for you to go see. Physical therapists, PTs, and occupational therapists, OTs, can do evaluations to assess this, and that would be kind of the quickest way of getting to the root of the problem. You could also see a neuro ENT and those other neuro-otology, neuro-ophthalmology. They would have these ENG calories, rotary chairs, and those postograph. I'm not even going to try to say that one. I'm going to mess that one up. And chiropractors. So ENG tests are they're really large computer system you wear on your head. It kind of looks like those virtual reality games, but those are kind of seeing where your eyes are and checking on your balance and things like that. Rotary chairs, they'll change your position. Like when you're in a small dark, they'll put you in a small dark room and then you sit in a chair, kind of like the one at the eye doctor, but they buckle you up and they'll kind of rotate the chair around. I remember Amy Zellmer has spoken at our conferences and things before, and she's got a lot of good stuff out there for brain injury, and she talks about hating that when they first put her in that, and it made her really, really sick. So it's probably not fun at the beginning, but it's good for them to get measured. And then the last thing is right here. There's a picture of that postography chair where you stand on the platform and they're kind of throwing different images at you and seeing how you respond. As far as North Dakota providers of these different kinds of testing, our resource directory should have maybe a few, and then Nikki or Rebecca would be good resources as well as to where we can get you help for that. Functional neurologists or chiropractors would also be a great resource to help with any vestibular issues you might be having. But like in the meantime, so before you get into that doctor and that appointment, breathing techniques. When that Amy did her presentation, she talked a lot about breathing techniques, and there just can't be enough said about how that can really calm you down and just help you stay on track and focus. Belly breathing, meditating, 4 square breathing. I have the app Calm. I love Calm. I think it's great. There's a free version and a paid version. There's a ton of apps out there. Headspace is another one that's got some good meditation. Amy in her presentation also really stressed rest, and not rest by watching TV and not by playing on your phone. Rest, like close your eyes. If you need to set a timer, if you're worried you're going to fall asleep, set a timer for yourself, but you really need to rest. Another good recommendation was to use Google Calendar or just even a basic day planner. I'm kind of old school. I like to use paper and pencil. So, but if you have your day written out or things that you need to get done for the week, let's say, you could rank those activities by how much they take out of you. You'll start to learn, like things like grocery shopping are really affecting me. So maybe do that on a day when you don't have to work or a day when you're feeling better, and just kind of ranking those and schedule things accordingly to that rank.
Carly,
Yes.
up there, breathing techniques, what is that word behind that black? You got meditation and four what?
Squared breathing. So that's breathing in for 4 counts and then out for 4 counts.
4 counts.
Yep, 4 counts.
Okay.
And they say you have to do that probably about 10 to 20 times before you notice a difference. But that's a really easy one to follow and to really calm yourself down and get you.
And then, okay, then can you explain belly breathing again?
Yes. So when you do belly breathing, you want your belly, you want your diaphragm to really be flexing, not necessarily your chest, if that makes sense.
Oh.
You want the breath to really go down deep into your belly. So if you're just moving your chest, it's not enough. They want you to get it really deep in your belly.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So there's some concussion prevention. Helmets. We obviously can't live in a bubble though, but create a safe sports culture, following the rules. A lot of times injuries happen because people aren't following the rules, or just being safe in general, like I talked about with falls on the ice, using salt, walking like a penguin, using those, I forget what they're called, those clips on the bottom of your shoes. Those help a lot in the wintertime too, to prevent slips. Wearing your seatbelt in the car, buckle up all the time. Yes, just be careful out there. And yeah, so that's about it for my presentation, but there is a lot more things coming up. We are looking at hosting a virtual concussion symposium. September 18th is National Concussion Awareness Day, so we would like to host something on that day. And we're working on getting speakers lined up, and we possibly have Karen McAvoy, who wrote the ReManual, coming to speak, or should be virtually speaking. But then there's also some webinars coming up. There's one on April 29th that goes from 11 to 12. It's from the Brain Injury Association of America. And if you want to email me, I can send you the link to get onto that one. And then also Brain Trust is doing an educators conference from 10:45 to 2 on Friday. And again, I can send you all that information as well if you would like to do that. So here is our contact info. I guess, sorry, my email isn't there, but it would be carly.endres, ENDRES, @und.edu, and that would be available on our website as well. So, anyone have any questions for me? Or we have Rebecca and Nikki's on here too, I think. No, no questions? This will also be archived and on our website too, if you know someone that couldn't make it. You could also do a CEU request for this webinar. We have social work CEUs available. So there will be a forum on our website as well for you to go on and request CEUs. Rebecca, you got anything to add?
No, I don't know if anybody had any comments. I mean, if you have any questions, do you at least have any comments or any, thoughts? I don't know if there's anybody that's looked at the REAP or any of those materials.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn says great info. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thanks, Lynn. You're welcome. Thanks
So
for
thank
coming.
you.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, we do have, the REAP, if you're interested in that, it is available online as a PDF. We do have hard copies of it if you are in a position that you want hard copies of that to either give out to individuals, patients, families, whatever that you're working with, just let us know. We have a limited number, so we didn't want to mass distribute them, but we do want people to know that we do have hard copies of them that are available to get out. So if you're in a position that you think you'd utilize them, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I lost the page.
Oh, you lost the page.
I lost you. Okay, I'm back. Go ahead, Rebecca.
I have a question, Rebecca. Are those copies on the website, or do we just contact you if we need those handouts or if we want to pass information on to families?
The copies are on the website. So the actual full REAP manual is on the website as a PDF. Plus, as Carly said, when she went through the common academic accommodations, that is a sheet that can be passed on. So that is also available on the website as a PDF. What you would have to contact us for is we actually do have really nice hard copies of the REAP.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we were able to order about 300 hard copies from Colorado. So we do have those if you are in a position that you have those that you would want to hand out to people.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. So, well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
We were really happy to be able to get information and have it as a resource to bring here to North Dakota. So we want it to be used. And as Carly said, this little bit of information will also be recorded on our website under our Webinar Wednesdays. So that will be there as well. So if there's anybody else that you know that maybe would be interested, you could refer them onto that, get those resources. As Carly said, we do these every other Wednesday now. So in 2 weeks, one on brain injury screening and those pieces. So we appreciate people participating, and we're always looking for different information or different topics. So if you do have questions or areas that you'd like us to present information on, feel free to shoot us an email, and we're happy to bring it to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Stay healthy.